Hello Year 5 and welcome to Wednesday, week 4 maths session with Mrs Gill. Okay, so the past couple of days then we've been looking at multiplying and dividing numbers by 10, 100 and 1,000. So we just need to remind ourselves what happens when we multiply a number by 10, 100 and 1,000 and what happens when we divide a number by 10, 100 and 1,000. So hopefully we can remember then that when we multiply by 10, our number moves one place to the left, by 100, 2 places to the left, and by 1,000, 3 places to the left. And if we're dividing by 10, our number moves one place to the right, by 100, 2 places to the right, and by 1,000, 3 places to the right. So today what I'd like you to do is just pause the video and I'd like you to choose one of these columns to have a go at. And you've got to find the missing number. So I'll just show you an example for the first one. You can have one for free. You can see here in the green column we've got 13 times something is 130. So I want you to think very carefully, and you might even want to write the number underneath and have a look at what has happened to that number. Well, I can see then that my number, each digit in my number has moved one place to the left. So that tells me I must have multiplied by 10. If we look in the orangey yellow column, this time when I look at how many times my digit has moved, it's moved 2 places to the left. Therefore, it's been multiplied, 13 has been multiplied by 100. Obviously the first one in the red column is the same there as well. So I'd like you to pause the video now and have a go at filling in the missing numbers. And here are the answers for you, so if you'd like to mark those now, you can. Okay, so what's quite nice today is our mental maths skill is going to link really well to the skill that we are going to need today in order to be successful in our learning. Today we're going to be looking at converting between different units of measure. Now you can see here we've got mm, and this stands for millimetres. We've got cm, which is centimetres, and we've got m, which is metres. And we're going to be converting between those different units of measure today. So how will we be successful? Well, we need to refer to facts. We need to think about how many centimetres are in a metre, how many millimetres are in a centimetre, etc. to help us. So really referring back to those key facts. Use place value grids where needed. So a little bit like how we've been using them with our multiplying and dividing by 10, 100 and 1,000. We might need to use those. And we're also really going to need to draw on that knowledge, reminding ourselves what happens to a number when we multiply and what happens when we divide by 10 and 100 in particular. And some of you may also be looking at 1,000 there as well. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So measures then, I'd like you to pause the video, and this is probably something that you could come back to at the end of the session and see if your choices have changed since you've done your work on this today. But I want you to think about, which do you think is larger, 2.3 metres or 203 centimetres? Then I'd like you to compare 34 millimetres and 12 centimetres and 8 metres and 80 centimetres. So you might want to just have a little think about what you know about the size of a millimetre, the size of a centimetre and the size of a metre, and start to think about this now. Don't worry if you're not sure. Hopefully by the end of today you'll feel more confident with this question, but just a chance to give it a go. Okay, so what skills do we need in order to answer that question? If I just float back, at the moment this is really hard to compare because these two amounts that I've given you each time are using different units of measure. So actually what we want to do is we want to change them into the same unit of measure. That's going to be really important today. So if we're thinking about what skills do we need the skills of converting. And in order to convert units of measure, we need to be able to multiply and divide by 10, 100 and 1,000. So that's going to be what's going to be really important to help us today. So what do they look like then? A millimetre. Well, actually, if you've got a ruler at home, you might notice that your ruler is probably measured and the scale is going up in centimetres. And often the other side of that scale is either inches or sometimes it is millimetres. Now, actually, a millimetre is just 1/10. Okay, so if you were to split a centimetre into 10 parts, it's just 1/10 of a centimetre. So a millimetre is a very small unit of measure. Okay, so what I did just want to do is just show you here, when you look at centimetres on your ruler, you can see that actually 10 millimetres here is the same as 1 centimetre. Okay, so 1 centimetre you can probably see on your ruler, it's probably the size of possibly your fingernail. And when we're thinking about a metre, I'd like you to think about a metre stick. It's almost like a large stride, maybe a large sort of your arm frame, your hands, or your arm span, should I say. We use metre sticks quite a lot at school, don't we, when we're trying to learn our times tables, possibly the length of one of your tables at school. And actually, in 1 metre, that's actually equal to 100 centimetres. So 100 of those centimetres makes 1 metre. So that's what they kind of look like in terms of a real life situation. And this is going to be the key thing today. And at the top of your task sheet today, what we have done is we've given you this very useful document, this diagram that's you can refer to help you with converting today. And there's going to be some key conversions that we need to be aware of today. The first one I'd like to look at is centimetres and millimetres. Okay, and we've talked about the fact that in 1 centimetre there is 10 millimetres. Okay, so if we look at our diagram, if we're looking, you can see this arrow here. If we're looking to go from centimetres to metres, it tells us what to do, so we need to times by 10. If, however, we want to go from millimetres to centimetres, we can see here to convert, we need to divide by 10. So that's going to be a really key one today and something to refer back to help you. The other one we're going to be looking at today then is centimetres and metres. Now, on our diagram again, you can see if we start on metres and we want to convert and find out, well, how many centimetres is that? We're going to times by 100. Or if we're starting with our centimetres and we're wanting to convert into metres, we can see here centimetres to metres, we divide by 100. So that's really good to refer to today to help you. So we're going to have a look at some converting now and do this together before you have a go on your own. So I've got 7 centimetres here. I'm going to put that, you can create your place value grid if you like in your book. It's quite useful if you've got squares as well. But don't worry if you haven't, you can create this yourself. So you've got 7 centimetres and we're going from centimetres to millimetres. So let's have a look at what I've got to do. Oh, I've got to times by 10. Well, I know when I times a number by 10, it moves 1 place to the left. So I'm going to end up with 70 millimetres. So 7 centimetres is equal to 70 millimetres. Let's have a look at the next one. Okay, right, so this time I have got millimetres and I need to convert my millimetres into centimetres. So I'm going to start with my millimetres and I need to convert back, looking at that arrow, into centimetres. So I need to divide by 10. My number moves 1 place to the right when I divide by 10. So the answer is 3. So the answer is 3 centimetres. So that's a little bit on converting centimetres and metres. Sorry, centimetres and millimetres. Now let's have a look at converting metres to centimetres. So this time I'm starting with 3 metres. Here's my metres here. And I'm converting into centimetres. So I need to times by 100. Think about what happens to that number when we times by 100. It moves 2 places. So we have 300. Put my place value holders in. So we know that 3 metres is equal to 300 centimetres. And the next one then, we've got this time 400 centimetres. and we're being asked to convert into meters. So we start on our centimetres and we're going to meters, so we've got to divide by 100. So let's move that number 2 places. That leaves us with 4 meters there. So that's a bit of converting, and you can draw your place value table if you think that would be useful for you to help you there. I'm going to do a couple more. These are going to get a little bit trickier, and there may be some decimal notation in here. So let's just watch and see how we're going to go about this one. So we're going to start with 170 centimetres. It's asking me to convert it into meters. So once again, centimetres to meters, I need to divide by 100. So I'm going to move each of my digits 1 place to the right. 1, 2. So my 7 comes in here, and 1, 2. My 100 becomes 1. You can see I do it on underneath. If you try and do it on the same line, you get very confused with your digits. So we can see here we've got 1.7. So our answer then is 1.7 meters. So what you guys are going to do then is you are now going to have a go at converting different units of measure, focusing on meters, centimeters and millimeters, and keep referring back to this diagram. It's really useful, and you can always create for yourself a place value grid to help you move those digits and remind you of what you need to do. There are answers like the other tasks so far this week, so if you want to mark your own work, that's absolutely fine. We love to see how you've been getting on, so we can have a look at it as well. Okay, thank you.